Hi, hello everyone again, and hello to Bola.
Morning,
Bola,
Anne.
hi there. I know you're really passionate about the Golden Thread, obviously evolving from the awful events at Grenville, and you've been doing an awful lot of work around this with the Digital Twin Skills Academy, really being passionate about bringing our young people in, developing the skills, but
Yeah.
also your frustration of why we haven't progressed further. So I realise you welcome the initiative, but I think you have some significant challenges that you want to throw our way as well. So really, yeah, over to you to share your initial thoughts.
Well, Anne, thank you so much, and thank you to Fiona and the team at Nima for inviting me here today. I think for me, really, this conversation, this head-to-head session, is all about a little bit of honesty. I think, um,
Mm.
I think, look, just cutting to why this information management initiative is so important to me personally, as a chartered surveyor, as a duty holder, and as a QS. So we're all about the information. We're all about data. It's always cluttered, unstructured. It's never really cleaned or authentic. There are so many mistakes. It's duplication. I loved what Richard had to say this morning about the productivity piece. That is a silver bullet aligned to the digital twin. But if we could just find a way and to just produce data, create information, standardize the way we do things across sector on all of those different silos, put the ego outside of the room for a minute and just recognize that actually there's a business case for better information management, which is how I'm referring to BIM. But we just have to understand that everyone in this sector has to upskill. After my 32 months at the CDBB, I recognized and I challenged the leadership team around skills. Where are we? How do we get the whole sector to recognize the value of the investment from government called the National Digital Twin? How do we get society and specifically the sector to recognize we've all got to upskill? And that is the biggest blocker I see to unlocking what Richard articulated this morning so well, right? And
Mm.
obviously, being invited to this group by you was amazing. And we've had some really interesting conversations, a lot of challenge, a lot of perspective. But I think we've finally agreed that there's got to be a consistent way of presenting data to be used as
Yeah,
meaningful
and
information,
I
right?
think that's my. I think the challenge around the initiative is that there are going to be so many demands, aren't there, and different perspectives. So I don't disagree with you on the upskilling. We have talked about whether, in fact, we need to, when we get resource and funding through, actually a proportion is assigned specifically to upskilling. But my
Hmm.
worry with what you've just described is that the another significant block is that everybody is doing it their own way. And
Correct.
there are so many silos. So for me, I can't help but think that there is a complementary, or you could say competing, demand that we really seek to convene, bring people together, ask them to compromise so that we can get to that common approach. So instead of
Okay.
thinking each time reinventing, well, what's the data that I should be asking for? Actually, we make it easier. So, look, these are the common data sets you should require. These are the
Yes.
common when you require them and how you deliver them, how you maintain them, who should be permitted to see those. So it's that common approach, that consistent approach, which, as you say, Richard was mentioning as well. That's what I guess keeps me awake at night. Is that it's fine to upskill people, but if we still haven't answered that question, we're stuck, and we see that, don't we, in all of the activities around what golden thread should compromise. Sorry, not compromise, should consist of.
Agreed. And I think it's that to me is the $6 million question, right? Um, the fact that the golden thread is a legal requirement, and this
Mm.
is not up for debate. It's not negotiable, right? We need to educate clients around the fact that actually they can't delegate this obligation, right? They have to put the management systems in place Thank you, our team in the back office who read my mind. This diagram, produced by the amazing John Roberts. I mean, this guy, look at what we've done together in consultation with the task group. This is a journey of data flowing through the process, all the different stakeholders, starting at the core, being the built and managed environment, and then moving outwards towards other stakeholders. We need consistent. I'm not going to go through this because John's going to do that. I'm not going to steal his thunder. But the golden thread is the last ring of activity on the screen, and it's supposed to represent all of the activity that goes before it. And right now, and I can guarantee you, and I was so glad that Richard made the point that we have to digitize the planning process, because this golden thread begins at planning gateway one, not at the beginning of construction process, which is what
Yeah,
a lot of people think, right? Planning
absolutely.
gateway one, we digitize that, we get there very quickly. But actually, most people don't even understand their contribution to the golden thread. And I'm talking about site based operatives all the way up to the CEO of the business contracted to do something in the realms of construction, right? There's a whole mismatch, there's a gap of knowledge and upskilling. And unless and until we get that right, this diagram will remain a diagram. And project owners who are anticipating getting a gateway 3 outcome at the end of construction will be cheated by the process. So we've got to get the upskilling piece front and
Mm.
center. We can't avoid it, right? We can't avoid it. And
No,
that's my frustration that there is still a lack of urgency from
yeah,
clients. There's a lack of understanding from design teams and professionals because it's all about the PI issue. And then there's a lack of awareness at site level. We've got open sites today that are supposed to be delivering a gateway 3 outcome. And I guarantee you it's not happening, or it's not
yeah.
happening at the granularity it needs to happen. So that's
Um,
my
yeah.
soapbox for this morning.
My concern is all that you've described. We have put within the 19650 standards. That it's there within the framework, but it's still not making the impact it should with all the challenges you're referring to here. Now, our ambition is that the initiative makes a difference.
Correct.
Have you any thoughts about how we ensure we make that difference?
Yes, I have, and
Yeah,
it's not rocket science. We just got to make it simple. We've got to make it simple, Anne. I can't describe it any other way. It's too complex. I'm having
yeah,
all of these conversations with different kinds of stakeholders. I'm talking to young people about ISO 19650. Say it's too difficult. It's too difficult, Dr.
yeah,
Bola. We just don't know what to.
yeah,
We've got to figure this out. The IMI is the refresh. It's an opportunity to make it simple for clients to buy into, right? And unless we get clients demanding simplicity in their contract deliverables, we're going to continue to have this conversation for
yeah.
another 10, 20 years.
Do you think that some of it is that they almost get distracted because we've thrown at them now new digital twins, AI, and so forth, and they're sort of blind in the headlights. We don't know where we're going now. So what's the focus of this? Because this seems old hat. So shouldn't we now be turning to this side of things? And I guess the 2 points, if I may, Bola, if you can. So there's that side of things. There's also that from an initiative point of view, and with the greatest respect to Dan Rossiter and the team at British Standards Institution, is that
Yeah,
I think, as you say, we don't want the majority of the sector to know about 19650 or indeed the framework, is because we'll have developed the tools, or technology providers will have developed the tools, which will allow for them to be able to contribute to their bit to the consistency of gathering and maintaining data. So if we're looking at, for instance, the trades in RMI, they're in refurb, they're going into a house to
yeah,
maintain, or into a high rise, they know that they have to hand what data they need to do the job and then to update the data on whether it be a plumbing and electrical system. So that then goes in. But for the moment, their challenge to us is we don't have those tools. We don't have the data. There isn't a
correct.
digital product passport. There isn't a digital passport for a building yet. What are you going to do about it?
Cha. And what a great and a loaded question, by the way. So look, I'm going to split it into two parts. Firstly, what can we do to help clients to engage better on this whole journey, right? Um, well, look, number one, we need more conversations. I keep saying it. Those C-suite thought leadership conversations have to happen. I've been doing it for years, pro bono. I think I deserve to be paid now. Plug, plug, plug. But anyway, what I'm saying is we need to get senior leaders in rooms that recognize the business case for better information management, right? And they need to understand that they have to tweak their contract deliverables. And that can only happen through conversations, through coming to forums like this, through being led by Nima and co. So it's conversations and micro credential ways of learning, bite-sized chunks, CPD, that type of thing. That's the only way it can happen on the client side. And we obviously at the DDSA are trying to do what we can with our partners. But on the BSI piece, ISO 19650, too complex, too much tech, I do sympathize with clients and project owners. They are getting overwhelmed by the market, by professional services, by consultants. Okay, we do this, we must do that, we can do this, we can't do that. There's so much tech, so much on offer. It really needs to boil down to simplicity around those conversations I talk about. Do you and your people have the right skills? Right? Have you done a skills matrix of your own business? Have you done a skills matrix of your leadership team? Do you understand the principles, again, in relation to IMI? And what I love about the digital twin conversation is every use case must be founded on purpose, trust, and function. Right? We mentioned purpose. We've got to build more trust. And I say that with my Grenfell Tower hat on. And then the function of information and data has to be easier to share. And that's where software vendors and manufacturers have a role to play. That interoperability piece is still a challenge, right? We need to figure that out. But I think this is in the gift of Nima to really be bullish with our narrative around what we know works. And we can only do that in consultation with the wider ecosystem of
Yeah,
clients,
yeah,
designers, product manufacturers, etc. But we've got to be bullish. We've got to be bullish. I
agreed.
think we're being too nice, if I'm honest.
Yeah, I think there's a comment come in from audience as well, and if I misrepresented what I meant, forgive me. But yeah, what we don't want is for information and data management to be seen on the side. It needs to be integral to your everyday work, and that's where the tools need to come in, don't they? Is that
Agree.
otherwise they're saying you're asking too much of me. I need to do my job. That's what I'm qualified to do as a tradesman. So just give me something which enables me to maintain that data as a part of the job that I'm doing. And I think that's the difficulty. If we're not careful, the initiative will, if we don't present this right, it'll be seen, oh, well, IM is in data, that's on the side, it's special. It's not. What we want to do as an initiative is to embed this into everybody's everyday working, to make it simple, so it's not seen as being, oh, I've got to remember that. I think
I
one of
agree.
the other things I was going to ask is that from a golden thread perspective, we already see that there are a lot of different organisations, a lot of activities going on to establish what that should be. Uh, but there are different opinions, and I think the initiative I would be saying, Bola, and test me if you think this is wrong, is that we need to invite people, organisations to come forward to say, this is what we've done. We believe this is the right approach. And
Yes.
what we would invite people to do is to please come forward. We have got the IMI resources where we would like to point to resources which will help, as we've just discussed. But I think what also is that we want to bring people together and actually convene and listen, get everyone to listen to the different approaches, different perspectives. But then we do need to get to a point where we converge to a common approach. And I think that's the whole thing around collaboration, is to
Correct.
listen, to learn, to present what you believe strongly is the strength of your particular approach, but also to be prepared to compromise. At the end of the day, I think we have got to be a bit humble. We've got to say, you know what, to get to
Yeah.
that common approach, there needs to be compromise. Clearly, there need to be red lines in this. But I think it is asking, please, can we come together, put the competitiveness to one side so that we can actually converge to a common approach. And I think maybe, I always remember with the BIM level 2, there was a thing about leaving the complexity to the supply chain. I get what that is around innovation and so forth, but if it means that we then have siloed and a whole range of different approaches, which confuses, then I think that's a mistake, and that's something that we need to really tackle head on and discuss.
I think you're right, Anne, and I was chomping at the bit trying to come in there because I think one of the ways I know this whole challenge can and will change is by talking about the role of insurance, right? And once we realize that insurance is at the core of our systemic challenge, everything will change. So I'm so glad you've gifted to me the insurance sector challenge around engagement, right? And what I'm doing is allowing one of the most important sectors of a three pillar challenge. So every construction project needs three things: it needs people, finance, and insurance, right? And on the insurance piece, insurers are only really interested in can they mitigate the risks that they're willing to underwrite for a price. But in the era of data, information management moving towards the digital twin utopia, the insurance sector have now recognized that data can be really powerful if it can be created in a real time scenario. So they are now beginning to recognize the role of digital twins in insurance. And therefore, if a project owner wants to ensure the Gateway 3 construction phase process, they're going to have to think about doing that in the context of using digital twins and live data. And if insurance companies can use APIs to monitor the risks that they've underwritten during that construction process and inherently shift that risk into the asset once it's been built, the insurance sector becomes the core driver of our ability to standardize the way we produce information and data. And that is why I'm excited about that particular use case. So for me, if we think about the black box in a car, trying to recognize how a younger driver is beginning to drive well or not, and the premiums reflect their conduct and behavior on the road, we need to think about data and its structure being interrogated by insurers in real time because they have the overarching obligation to keep the environment safe. So for me, there's a persona that will help to take this conversation into another direction, and clients will immediately recognize the value to their business because they want to pay less in terms of their premiums, not more. So there in itself is a silver bullet, and that's why I'm excited about the IMI, because the IMI sits at the core of that conversation. And some, I'm talking to two or three already, they understand it and they want to know more.
It's a great point, and I'm really excited as well in the potential here. I suppose it is a question of how we capture their attention and draw them in so that they can really help on the momentum. But also, what comes into my mind then, Bola, is the regulators, and
Okay.
obviously specifically for the Building Safety Act, but wider as well. So we have got, for instance, Joe Jolly, who will be speaking a bit later from Ofwat, and what the role of the regulator is. And I suppose part of this is this whole interface, which is where Construction Leadership Council is interesting as well, is that I think it's been really tough for the regulator, and this whole discussion with MHCLG on the golden thread is that they have been bombarded with different opinions from
Of course.
industry as well. So
Yeah.
it's how we move that forward as well, isn't it? So that we can get people to say, you know what, we need this initiative to really facilitate that conversation, because otherwise we'll always be fighting each other and different approaches.
But I think the whole issue and challenge for the regulator, they need to start with the end in mind, right? That phrase is so relevant. They've got to
Mm.
start with what do they want to see at the end of the process? What do they want to see at Gateway 3? At Gateway 3, they want to see that whoever has been contracted to build the asset, it is a direct one-to-one reflection of what they were permitted to build at Gateway 1 and what was approved from a building control perspective of Gateway 2. That's what the regulator needs to see. Now, how they see that, in my head, should be a 5D twin, right? It may not be, but this constant reference to digital versus um, uh, technological versus soft. i.e. PDF. I mean, digital format is digital format, right? We can't begin to dissect what digital format means, although we have. And as an industry, in the gift of IMI, we need to define what that digital format should be for a golden thread solution. We need to make that really clear. At the
Yeah,
moment, no one's got an idea. Everyone's trying to do and figure out something that they think means digital. But actually, if we're bold and define what that means,
yeah,
that would be a great help to the industry. I'm talking to the CITB, and we are having some very deep conversations about what the industry needs,
mm,
right? Even up until last night, because I am frustrated that there is a lack of leadership on the definitions required. And that is why we run the risk of the sector running in different directions. Those that are capitalized, the big business, to get it right, they'll run down one direction. The micro businesses at the other end that don't have the money will do
yeah,
something else. And then
yeah,
everyone in the middle just looks left or right depending on how much money they have to spend to get it right. We
yeah,
can't have that. We need
no,
standards, we need definitions, we need clarity as a sector, right? And the
yeah,
CITB, CLC have a role to play, as
yeah.
does the CIC, all of whom I'm talking to. But we're
And,
talking. We've got to
yeah,
stop
and I think,
talking, right?
but it's going beyond the talking, isn't it? So I think
Yeah.
there's a couple of examples I'd like to use. So Chris Lees will be talking later.
My man.
Nick
Good man.
Nisbet, believe, is in the networking room at the moment. We've had some fantastic conversations between the two of them and Oscar on
Yep.
the housing data standards, on the
Yep.
building smart data standards. And actually, they've had really insightful discussions where they have moved forward together. Fantastic. That's more of what we need, isn't it?
Correct.
But with the manufacturers, we've got Trish coming in later, Trish Macy from Beamer.
Amazing.
She'll be talking about manufacturers and product providers and the digital product passports. I know Paul Morell, for instance, really frustrated, really wants to move forward. So I think
Good
we've
old Paul.
got but definitely the potential for the conversations. What I'm hungry for, anxious of, is we need the outputs. So
100%.
yeah, at what point we have to say, look, you're fine, we've talked that through, now we need to deliver on it. And that's where I think it's really important that the initiative is focused, does connect, but then helps to coordinate and deliver on outputs which help us. There was one thing that I wanted to, because I think we're probably getting short on time, is I know that you think, and totally agree with you, that's why we've got that one of the outcomes needs to address the needs of society. So
Yes.
the social value,
Yes.
from a golden thread point of view, it's the people who live in those homes. We had a
Exactly.
fantastic presentation last conference from the perspective of the user, of somebody who actually lives in social
Yeah.
housing. So I wanted to give you the opportunity to just explore some of your thoughts in that
On the
context.
social value piece, well, that's at the core of my ways, and at the academy, that's what we're
Yes,
doing.
yes,
And I've just told you, we have had to, as an academy, employ young people to help us help clients, contractors, to deliver their golden thread, right? That wasn't part of our plan 2 years ago, right?
mm,
But the social
yeah,
value piece, as a consequence of that, we're now calling it a social value digital twin because we're getting young people who are unemployed, who want to come into construction, not necessarily in traditional trades. They really love the digital construction opportunity. And by default, we're beginning to create opportunities for them and the resident engagement piece that needs to happen as part of Building Safety Act compliance, right? So that third pillar of the resident engagement piece is front and center for us. But that doesn't even come into the conversation of information management, right? And from a regulatory perspective, one of the areas of a building safety case review will be how has the asset owner slash accountable person engaged with the resident? And that's not just social value. That is regulatory requirement. That is
mm,
an ability to demonstrate that you're talking to your principal stakeholder, the
yeah,
resident, right? And we're
yeah,
doing that with young people.
yeah,
But that's getting lost in the wider conversation of are we sharing the same sort of data in the same way
yeah,
and producing similar outcomes?
yeah.
So it's
So,
so
so
disjointed.
Yeah. So where I would just hesitate with what you just said is if information management isn't considering that, then it's a missing piece of the jigsaw. It should
Agreed.
be. And this is where information management needs to cut right the way across to serve all of those different demands. So it's not for its own sake. We need to be very clear on purpose. We need to deliver on
Yeah.
that purpose. So social value on this great diagram that I know John Roberts will be talking about both later on this afternoon on the conference floor, but also in the
Yeah.
networking room. We've got the example of the circular economy, is that we need to be thinking about it from a circular economy perspective as well, don't we?
Agreed. Agreed. And John's
Yeah.
done really well with this, and he's going to knock people out with this whole narrative. Um, but I mean, look, just on that social value piece, and I think even being a judge at this year's Building Awards 2024, the social value category was one with a dashboard type solution where it recognized that the developer wanted to capture their Section 106 obligations in a slightly different way, right? And it was such a great solution. Again, it fits into this whole narrative of information management, and it does it from the perspective that actually we not only want to build something, we want to leave a legacy behind us. And it's that legacy piece that excites me, particularly when you
Mm.
think about young people. So, if we're going to create a more diverse talent pool, a more resilient, productive talent pool, representative of society, we're going to need to figure out what social value really means in the
Mm.
context of information management. And if we can digitally evidence what we've done from Gateway 1 to Gateway 3, wouldn't that be amazing? Be
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah. So there are the two perspectives, aren't there? Definitely the upskilling piece, but then looking at what the purpose is, whether it be the circular economy, whether it be delivering direct to the golden thread, whether it be on social value, whether
Yeah,
it be on the digital product passports. We need to be converging to a common approach, a standard information approach, so that we're not all feeling we've got to reinvent the wheel or
correct.
that it's a means to compete. So getting that convergence, being able to facilitate that, to facilitate the conversation, but then to deliver the tools that are required, the methodologies required to move forward, I think is such an important perspective for the initiative. So not a small challenge, is it? But I don't
No,
think we're going to have a dull journey with this initiative. But
we
it
don't
is
do
just the
small.
start of the journey, isn't it?
We don't do small, and we love a challenge, and we whistle while we work, right? I mean, this is exciting. In as much as it sounds challenging, it's still exciting, right? The industry has to change so many things, and
Yeah,
I'm just so optimistic that if we get the young people in to help us more senior, more mature, realize that there are areas of low hanging fruit. We're on a journey, but we're going to enjoy it. We have to
yeah.
enjoy it because this is our career, this is our livelihood, right? We've got to enjoy it. And I'm going to enjoy it because I'm all about excitement. That's why I call the chief excitement officer, right? It's someone said it's so
Isn't it?
befitting. I'm like, there you go.
Yeah,
That's me all
yeah.
day long, right?
Yeah. Well, thanks ever so much. It's been great to talk to you.
My
Hopefully, the
pleasure.
audience has found it useful. Are discussing a very wide-ranging discussion on Golden Thread and really why the initiative should deliver on really important aspects. I think it's time for us to now hand back over to
Amazing.
Fiona. So thank you ever so much, Bola.
Thank you all.